Hello, kia ora, g'day, I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with your Australia-only weather forecast for the coming weekend and right across next week. Let's kick off with the satellite and lightning map. A busy one again today, plenty of cloud around. You know, the tropical jet stream has dropped southwards, the polar jet stream has moved northwards, and in between the two, plenty of cloud. We've got some thunderstorms, some showers, and some of you just getting a little bit of cloud with a few spits and not really producing much at all. Most of the wet weather is in the northern or northeastern parts of New South Wales and going up into Queensland. Further southwards across New South Wales, those showers taper off, and by the time you're into Victoria, it's looking mostly dry. Maybe a couple of coastal showers still around, as there is around Tassie, following the cold front you had. The cold front now out here in the Tasman Sea producing many thunderstorms as it heads over towards New Zealand. Behind it, the speckled cloud, that's a sign of a more wintry kind of southwesterly with showers and lower temperatures. We've also got another area of low pressure around South Australia producing some downpours and thunderstorms this morning. Maybe not the best timing for some of you at this time of the year, but we've got a few downpours moving through. And over in Western Australia, fairly settled for the southern half, but the top half seeing those thunderstorms continuing on, spilling over into the Northern Territory, although a lot of that energy is up around Katherine and Darwin. But look at all the energy offshore. That's the area we're monitoring for this potential tropical storm next week. It's not locked in, and the computer modeling from different outlets still varies, which lowers my confidence about what is exactly going to happen. But what we are seeing is from the American modeling, the chance of a tropical cyclone, the European modeling backing off from that a wee bit. But we'll show you those maps at the end of this because basically it is a week away from now, so that'll be our final maps in today's broadcast. But let's have a look at the air pressure, and not too often that you see basically all of Australia in this darker purple shading showing low pressure. Now there is a wee bit of high pressure this evening around the Bass Strait area, Victoria, Tasmania, with lighter winds, drier skies tonight. You'll be happy about that, I'm sure, especially in Tasmania. But there is still low pressure nearby, and that means there will be instability going into Saturday around the southeast corner of Australia. But yeah, a lot of low pressure. The main high well out to the east over the Tasman, and the other one well to the west or southwest of Perth. So here is Saturday's setup. We'll start with Queensland, the Northern Territory in Queensland. That's where we're seeing a lot of thunderstorms around, and that is spilling further southeastwards into Queensland. You can see the red tropical boundary being dragged down. That's, as I mentioned, the tropical jet stream is lower at the moment. The polar jet stream is pulling up. And so in between the two, that's where we're seeing some unsettled weather. There's also low pressure, the one that was over South Australia, by tomorrow, basically over the eastern side of Victoria and around the ACT. That low pressure zone will produce some showers and thunderstorms northwards around New South Wales, but most of that severe risk is in the northeastern side of New South Wales and really into the southeast corner of Queensland. We may see some other severe thunderstorms around the Northern Territory and also around the Kimberley, otherwise not too much elsewhere. Further southwards into Western Australia, the southern half is affected by the high pressure zone well off the coast over the Indian Ocean. Spreading a ridge right through to South Australia, that drags in that cooler southwesterly, turns it around as a southeasterly, not as humid, not as hot for the southern half of Western Australia. And we've got more showers around South Australia moving into Victoria as well. Thunderstorm map, this is for Saturday afternoon. Severe thunderstorm risk, quite a large part here of southeast corner of Queensland and spilling further southwards into New South Wales, and that could move around. That's just a snapshot in the afternoon, but it moves around obviously going into the evening. And the thunderstorm risk is there right across, especially around the Great Dividing Range, sort of east and west of it. But the severe chance of, or the severe thunderstorm risk drops. The risk does, the further southwards you go on that map. But you could still see some heavy downpours and thunderstorms in there, worth monitoring with the Bureau of Meteorology on Saturday. They'll be tracking this in more detail, and you can also see that general risk right across the entire Northern Territory. Here is Sunday's setup. Still more severe thunderstorms around, especially for Queensland. You can see that line of convergence from Brisbane all the way back basically to Darwin. That is that line of convergence in there. But the red tropical boundary has gone northwards. That means the tropical jet stream is going further northwards. But the polar jet stream to the south is also doing the same thing, and that ushers in the next cold change. Now for Tasmania, Victoria, and some parts of South Australia, that might not come in until nighttime. And then it goes away quite quickly on Monday. So it's short-lived in spring fashion. These cold changes don't linger around like they do in winter as much. But the high out to the west is going to encourage windier weather. You can see it here in South Australia, and that will move into parts of Victoria later on. Doesn't look too severe, but it's just a bit gusty, as it is also in the mid-coast here. Around parts of the Gascoyne could be seeing a bit of a gusty easterly wind. Certainly plenty of thunderstorms, severe potential in the Northern Territory, in the top half of the Northern Territory, but that southerly flow coming into places like Alice Springs. On Monday, the southerly flow goes right through here. You can clearly see it right across New South Wales. So yeah, a couple of showers possible down around the southern mountains. Fades out around the ACT, pretty much dry elsewhere, and that southerly will reduce the humidity, dry out the skies for the southeastern corner of Queensland. Maybe some lingering showers in the morning, one or two isolated ones later on, but most of that energy goes further into the tropical part of Australia. Still low pressure though around the mid-coast, the midwest coast of Western Australia. It's not really doing much in the way of rain, but it does just put the squeeze on the isobars here between that low and the offshore high. So those easterly winds could be a little bit gusty in some places, but windy weather, the windiest of it would probably be out here around the southeast corner. Victoria, Tasmania, temperatures down. You can see the polar boundary has already moved across. Short-lived, but you'll feel it still, especially in the morning when you wake up. Let's go through next week. The polar boundary, as you've been noticing probably in previous updates this week, is sort of hanging around. Now, the reason for this is because of the sudden stratospheric warming that occurred over Antarctica during winter. If you look at the October Climate Watch video that we put out, it talks all about that. And what it's done is it's made that blue line, which is normally kind of pushed southwards at this time of the year a lot more. It's really wavy, and it comes up and then it goes away again. Then it comes back up again and goes away again. That sudden stratospheric warming over Antarctica made that boundary very wavy rather than being a more circular shape. That's why we're getting these cold blasts, and it's like a solar flare off the sun. It can pop out in any kind of area on that whole dome. Similar story around the bottom part of Antarctica. It can occur anywhere around Antarctica, but obviously it has really favoured the southeast corner of Australia. New Zealand's not getting these cold blasts anywhere near as often as Australia's been getting them, and it could easily change in a month's time and might go the other way around. New Zealand might start getting it more than you are, but that is why it is so unsettled at the moment. And because we're in spring and we're getting closer to the wet season and the summer heat, there's a lot of energy being squeezed between the polar boundary and the tropical boundary, and so unsettled weather is likely to continue on, and that's what we get middle of next week. Polar boundary returns again, but it's not over here in Western Australia. You've got an east to northeasterly. Some severe thunderstorm risk here as well for Western Australia, and now we're seeing that storm potentially developing northwest of Darwin. Much drier skies though around the rest of Queensland and New South Wales, the ACT, although up in the far north of Queensland still a few thundery showers. They continue into Thursday as well. The low, we'll talk about that in a second. I've got another map for that one, but you can see it there west of Darwin. Showers and thunderstorms around parts of Western Australia. That low pressure zone sinking southwards. Once that high that's been sitting in the southwest finally starts to actually move south of Australia. So that high is responsible for the windy easterlies and northeasterlies here in Western Australia. It's responsible for the thunderstorms along with the low pressure zone next to it. And that high is responsible for the polar airflow coming back in to Melbourne and other main centres around Victoria, and obviously all of Tasmania getting that. But further northwards, there is some low pressure, a few thunderstorms around, but really not too much going on considering what else is happening elsewhere. But on Friday, those severe thunderstorms return around Toowoomba, around Brisbane, around the Sunshine Coast, and around the northern rivers as well. Chance of some heavy falls in there as those easterly winds now start to crank up as that high moves further eastwards along towards Tasmania. The other feature, we can talk about it now, the storm up here to the north. So here's a closer view of it. Now, based on that model, that is a severe tropical cyclone. But the black movement here is the European modelling. So European modelling in the black animation, the white, that's not moving, That is the American modelling. So there's still disagreement. They both agree that there is a low in this area, not too far apart from each other either. And considering that's a whole week away, the time for it to align. But what we're trying to work out is it going to really power up like a storm or remain like a lazy low, as it is going to be like over the coming days ahead up there. So we'll be monitoring that one very closely as we go through the coming days. Before I go, here is the rainfall coming up. You can see the severe thunderstorm outbreak. You can see that storm forming up there. And then you can also see the showers and thunderstorms developing around Western Australia, as well as the cold fronts, the southwesterlies, the westerlies blowing through the southeast corner. So there are a few things going on around Australia over the next week. Plenty to talk about, that is for sure. That's all from me. Have a great weekend. Look forward to seeing you again the start of next week.